set for Curry's fifth ring? The Golden State Warriors are coming off a season that cannot be called a successful one, since this team has set its standards so high that nothing but winning the championship is acceptable. Losing to the Los Angeles Lakers in the second round was totally unexpected, as the Lakers barely made it to the playoffs, and the historic dominance that Steph Curry had over LeBron James. Both of them are eager to win a fifth championship, and it will not be a surprise if their paths cross next year in the playoffs. The feeling is that everybody is talking about whether LeBron will win his fifth championship and get closer to Michael Jordan, and somehow Curry is left out of the conversation, and we all know what happened the last time anyone said that he would not win any more championship. After winning 3 titles in 4 years, the Warriors had a couple of injury-prone seasons, and many thought that their dynasty was over before they won the 2022 championship by beating the Boston Celtics in the finals, and Curry won his first NBA Finals MVP trophy. Aiming to get better for the next season, both the Warriors and the Lakers have a busy offseason, making many additions to their rosters, which makes us even more excited for the next season. In this video, we will take a look at all the offseason moves the Warriors made, and if that puts Curry in a position to lead his team to another championship. After barely going past the Sacramento Kings in 7 games and losing to the Lakers in the second round, Warriors head coach Steve Kerr said that they did not look like a championship team all season long, and he was not surprised they failed to defend the title. That was a clear sign to the Warriors owner Joe Lacob that it was a time for major changes, and that is exactly what happened. Bob Myers stepped down as the team general manager after more than a decade in that position, and was replaced by the former Warriors player Mike Dunleavy Jr. He could not wait for his first move in the new role, and what Dunleavy Jr. did was unexpected. He decided to trade the uprising star Jordan Poole for veteran point guard Chris Paul, which was an awkward trade for multiple reasons. First, the Warriors recently signed Jordan Poole to a 4-year, $140 million contract, and he was seen as a player who would step into Curry's role when the 2-time MVP starts to slow down a bit. And second, why would the Warriors bring in a superstar point guard when they already have Curry in that spot? Yes, these are both legit questions, and we are here to give you the reasoning behind that. Probably the main reason why the Warriors lost to the Lakers last season was the lack of variety in their offense. Both Curry and Coach Kerr pointed that out, and we cannot disagree with those statements. Curry did play over 34 minutes per game last year, which is pretty much for a 34-year-old player. He was doing his thing when he was on the court, and Jordan Poole was the one who stepped into his role when Curry was on the bench. Poole was playing the same way Curry does, taking every possible or impossible shot, with the difference that he had a much lower shooting percentage and led the league in turnovers. When Curry and Poole were on the court at the same time, often it looked like they needed more than one ball, and Poole was starting to oversee Curry and take some clutch contested shots, even though we all know that it is the time when Curry does his cooking. So with Paul joining the Warriors lineup, they get an experienced point guard whose main goal would be to facilitate the rest of the players. There is no doubt that CP3 is one of the best point guards in league history, and that he would bring them the variety they missed last year. The idea of Curry and Klay Thompson being able to run around screens and have one of the greatest passers ever feeding them with the ball gives the Warriors a different look. Paul has proved to be a clutch player, and knowing that he is already 38 years old, next season would be his last shot at winning the NBA championship. But still, there are many who doubt that trading for Paul was the right move for the Warriors, and there are many arguments that support that. Curry being Golden State's point guard led many to believe their interest in Paul was illegitimate because they clearly did not need a starter at that spot. With the Warriors acquiring Paul despite this, it now seems as if he could be open to transitioning into a bench role for the first time in his career. That may not go so smoothly with the veteran point guard, who has clarified that he wants to stay as a starter for the Warriors. So far, Paul has played 1,214 regular season and 149 playoff games, all of them as a starter, so coming off the bench would be something new to him. On the other hand, a starting backcourt of Curry and Paul would seem odd, especially on the defensive end. Curry's ability to play off the ball could make it work if necessary on the offense, but as they are both undersized and not elite defenders, it can make them vulnerable in one-on-one situations. However, Paul should provide the Warriors with more stability in the non-Curry minutes, which is something they were in desperate need of last season. Anyway, we all know that the Warriors are Curry's team, and Paul would have to adapt to any role Coach Kerr gives him. Of course, Curry was asked if he wanted to play with Paul before the trade was made, and the four-time NBA champion does not hide his excitement to have a chance of having Paul by his side. The two know each other very well and have had a long relationship that has gone through many phases. Before Curry was drafted in 2009, he worked out with Paul, who was already a star in the league. Curry remembers that Paul was a great mentor who taught him a lot about discipline and work ethic, but things were not constantly well between them. One year after the Warriors made a surprise trip to the second round of the playoffs in 2013, they were back again to face a Los Angeles Clippers team with the league's best offense. In Game 3, Curry had a chance to give the Dubs a 2-1 series lead, but Paul stifled his three-point shot attempt. Curry thought that he was fouled, but the Warriors lost the game and eventually the series in 7 games. As Curry grew into a real superstar, on his way to a unanimous MVP, he tortured the entire league, but particularly Paul's Clippers. The rivalry was still alive when Paul moved to the Houston Rockets. During their 3 meetings in that first regular season, Houston, led by Paul and James Harden, got the upper hand with a 2-1 record and finished the season with the best record in basketball. When the two teams met in the Western Conference Finals, it was a back-and-forth affair where each point guard got a chance to show out. Curry's go-to celebration was his shimmy, which he showcased in Game 3, and Paul got to throw that right in Curry's face after a desperation heave in Game 5, which Curry respected. The Rockets took Game 5 in a 3-2 lead in the series, but Paul picked up a hamstring injury that kept him out of the final 2 games of the series. It was perhaps the first sign that age was catching up. Paul's absence was only magnified when the Rockets built up double-digit halftime leads in Games 6 and 7, only to squander them. Game 7 was a particularly memorable collapse, as Houston shot 7 of 44 from deep. The two teams met the following postseason in the second round, and the Warriors were the ones who advanced despite Kevin Durant getting hurt in the series. However, there has always been mutual respect between the two, and it is a fact that they have been friends for years, as both of them have attended each other's weddings. Curry is aware that Paul elevated every team he ever played for, and expects the same to happen with the Warriors. Another reason why trading for Paul makes sense for the Warriors is strictly business. His contract would expire after this season, and he will free up $30 million from the Warriors' salary cap, which would have not been the case if they kept Poole because, as we already mentioned, he had a heavy long-term deal with the team. It is too early to say if Paul will keep playing after this season, but if he decides to, he would probably be available for the Warriors for the veteran minimum. Another move that Nbalyfe Jr. made after he took the GM position was signing Draymond Green to a 4-year, $100 million contract extension. There were rumors that Green may end up signing elsewhere, but the Warriors quickly put an end to all of that by signing their defensive specialist to a new deal. Green has had a major role on the Warriors in the past decade and has been doing what the team needs, often sacrificing his stats sheet. We all know that Green speaks his mind and has been in a beef with any opponent the Warriors have had, and that includes Chris Paul as well. However, Green is also excited about the addition of the point guard and believes that he will help the team win another NBA championship. In a recent interview, Green emphasized Paul's impact on young players, and he is sure that Paul will unlock Jonathan Kuminga. The 20-year-old has been with the Warriors for the last 2 seasons, and he is one of the most athletic players in the league. Paul is the perfect playmaker for such players, and he can get the best out of them in the open court. Yes, Paul can indeed make a productive player from anybody that can run and jump, but the fact is that they are still a player or two shy of being the best team in the West. The Warriors had role players like Andre Iguodala and Sean Livingston in the past, and there is only Gary Payton II who can fill in that role on this team. Anyway, with Curry still on top of his game, whoever wants to come out of the West would need to go past the Warriors. Paul and Curry may need some time to click, but once they do, they will be unstoppable. Curry will have a chance to focus on scoring, while Paul will be the one taking care of the ball and providing the right pass. Knowing Curry's competitiveness, he is definitely targeting another one, or maybe even 2 championships by the end of his career. And by adding Paul to the roster, they are definitely the favorites to go all the way next season.